people are going to immediately think, oh, wow, Gary just had a lot of money. Well, that's just not true. I didn't have any money. I worked for $27,000 a year. Believing that you have to stay in one industry is a complete myth. I actually believe we have been lied to, that we can learn anything. I think gold gets hurt here. People don't make money being diversified. Move everything I possibly can. You guys are out of your mind if you don't think Bitcoin can move in an extremely short period of time.
What if everything you thought you knew about success was actually holding you back? That's the lessons that Gary learned and turned from a $27,000 a year worker into a Bitcoin multi-millionaire. In this video, we're diving into Gary's playbook for success in a world that's changing rapidly. From rewriting the rules in the natural gas industry to going all in on Bitcoin, Gary's story is proof that adaptability and focus can build real wealth. Coming up, we'll reveal why Gary says US miners are about to hit a wall and who's set to take over the Bitcoin mining game. Then he shares his top strategies for stacking sats and building wealth in 2025, even if you're starting from nothing. And finally, his no-holds-barred market outlook and where he thinks Bitcoin is headed. If you want to unlock Gary's secrets to success and accelerate your Bitcoin accumulation, stick around to the end, you'll thank me later. Going beyond Bitcoin to bring you the skills and insights you need to escape the fiat matrix, this is Mentor Sessions. Awesome. Well, Gary, thank you so much for joining me today. Now, I know that a lot of people listening are going to want the price predictions and everything that you have, you're projecting for the future. But before we get into that stuff, you have a very interesting past and a few things really stood out to me. So for people that aren't familiar, even maybe going as far back as like working in nat gas, can you tell me a little bit about your history in entrepreneurship and business and what kind of led you to here?
Yeah, sure. So I studied economics and marketing in college. Immediately leaving school, I had no clue what I was going to do. I was a C student, and I was a C student just because I wasn't really interested. I'm actually an A student if I have a great teacher and a great subject. That took me a long time to realize. Actually, I thought I was just dumb and a bad student until I actually got in the real world. But I got a job in the natural gas business in working in Corpus Christi, Texas, got the job in Houston, and it was a little satellite operation. It would actually define most of my next steps in my career. It was a little satellite office of a large corporation. My boss was 29. And I was 21, going on 12. Natural gas contracts were this long, this big, dude. Like
simple
words, $7.32. Prices were fixed. If you drilled to a certain depth, you got a premium. Natural gas is natural gas. Okay, it doesn't matter. It burns exactly the same. I remember looking at my boss. I couldn't have been 22 years old, Nathan, and this is a pipeline. And right next to the pipeline was a well that Conoco was drilling. And Conoco, the next closest pipeline was like 70 miles away. I went to my boss and I said, hey, look, instead of giving them $7.35, which was the dictated contract price so Noble One would compete with each other, I said, why don't we give them $7.25? And he's like, we don't trade on nickels and dimes. Our job was to fill a 2 billion cubic feet a day pipe.
Wow.
And he didn't care about 5 cents or 10. And it wasn't really him. It was the whole industry.
Everyone was like that.
The regulator would come in under Reagan and issue an order. And that order, I'm stunned that people believe that governments can't change everything overnight. The order was called FERC Order 431, I think, or 478. And it basically said that if you have bought 30-year natural gas from Mobil Oil Company in a, legal binding contract, all of you guys can throw those contracts away. We're not gonna go legal on them. We're opening the market. We think you guys have been creating a little club, making tremendous amount of margins on very little risk. It's time to open the market. Today, the price of natural gas is $3 because we have competition. Today, we have something called fracking that occurred because of low oil prices, not high oil prices, low oil prices. Low natural gas prices drove innovation to do it better, faster, more efficiently. And that's what I love about proper markets. And so the natural gas market, I basically lucked into a highly disruptive environment. It was just, my timing was perfect. And because I didn't have any baggage from the prior 30 years of oil and gas, the way the club works, look, all organisms operate on some principles, right? And if 9 out of 10 players aren't really competing and they're all like, hey, we're all making 12%, guess what happens? Behavior of that club, whether you have a meeting or not, is, hey, let's all protect our margins. Because who's the enemy? The enemy is actually the guy buying the product from you. That's the
mindset.
Yeah, exactly. It's a zero-sum game, right? I've got to take something from someone. The cool thing about competition that I learned after 25 years was that if one human being with the right mental construct, and it is amazing how a few human beings can change something. I would suggest that no more than 200 men completely transform the way energy, natural gas and electricity trade around the world, man, between the age of 92 and 2000. The whole, what y'all call the Enron era, that was a massive, massive reformation. Looks quite a bit like crypto, actually.
Really?
Oh, dude, the parallels of the transfer of energy to a 30-minute cycle from a 30-year cycle. They used to say, hey, we need 30-year contracts. Otherwise, we'll never have the capital. The capital will not come in and do these big oil programs and these big pipe programs, right? So we need 30 years. Today, power trade, electricity, the most violent commodity on the planet, trades on a 30-minute cycle, and nat gas trades on a 30-day cycle. There are no 10-year contracts, dude. Like none. It's all spot. And that makes the market work really, really, really effectively. If you can do that, this is my premise, and this is what got me. A lot of people go, hey, dude, you came into crypto and you came in hard, like really hard. And the reason is, I think my understanding of how disruptive a thought, much less technology, can impact a very large industry. Like the energy business is more important than money. Okay, you don't print money without energy. There is no Fed without natural gas. Okay, there's no Bitcoin without power. There's not a credit card without power. So if we could transform that, where you still think the top 10 oil producers in the world are American companies, that is not true at all, man. ExxonMobil is not in the top 10.
Who's the top position now?
It's
sovereigns,
which is exactly why I can be so confident that the sovereigns will be Bitcoin miners, and they will be the only Bitcoin miners that actually survive. You will have zero cost energy on your balance sheet. Otherwise, you're not going to survive Bitcoin. And I know this pisses the Bitcoin miners off, but it's just true. And it's true. All you have to do is go look at what happens in energy. No one guarantees ExxonMobil to make a premium or a margin. Wow, what's happening to Bitcoin miners? I have seen producers of energy lose money for 4 years, dude. Okay, just lose and lose and lose for 4 years because the price is just too low. And they can't stop drilling because guess what they do? Just like miners, drillers drill and miners mine, dude. This is what they do. They went to school. My job is mining. Nothing to do with margins. So long piece of story, but you get thrown into the energy complex and then you see it completely deregulated, completely changed over 25, 30 years. And I will tell you today, the energy players only enjoyed about half of what they could have enjoyed. Like most industry players, in fact, I would say 99% of them underestimate the change that's going to occur during a disruptive period. And it is a monster. I've seen 4 of these. This is the monster of all disruptions.
That's fascinating. There's so much I want to pull on there, and actually, one thing I want to touch on because I've had this idea in the back of my mind for a while. I'm curious with your experience, what you think of it too. Is that I agree. I think the mining industry as we see it today is not the way it's going to be sustained over time, and that ultimately, I think the biggest players in mining, I completely came to the same conclusion, will be energy companies, and even beyond that. I don't think that the mining pools that we see today will be what we see going down the road as well too. Because why would, if you're a major energy producer and you've got zero cost on that energy, why would you want to take any risk with a pool when you could just do your pool yourself if you have enough hash power behind it? I think the mining companies, to avoid geographical risk of like operating with a pool that is somewhere outside of, say, the US, will end up not only being the energy providers, but they'll operate their own pools as well too. And we'll see that kind of monopoly currently break up as a result of it.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because the U.S. miners, I actually think mining on scale is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
That micro mining, I have been very, very negative micro. I'm actually starting to believe micro mining might be the only guys that make it, which is bizarre because normally scale helps you. But all these American miners are really struggling with keeping operations up. And this is why people like me and Michael Saylor are not going to become miners, because it's cheaper to buy Bitcoin. I can buy Bitcoin for $110,000 right now, and Marathon can't produce it for 137. Whoa,
Right.
137. Bro, you were begging for $100,000 prices, and now you can't produce for 137. Why? Oh, they decided a year ago to produce Caspa, or whatever you call it. Like, bro, you keep changing. And I like Fred and the whole team, but like these players are changing their business plans by every 3 months, man. Okay, I'm doing this. Now I'm doing this. Oh, I'm in a Bitcoin reserve company. This is getting, just because you have Bitcoin on your balance sheet doesn't mean it's magic cocaine that you don't get addicted to, right? Like, I mean, this game is becoming very, very complicated. And if you look at the people that are actually making all the money, they're taking the least amount of risk.
I wonder if it's the kind of thing where like Bitcoin mining can't be your primary source of revenue. Like it can't be your primary business. It has to be almost like tangential to something else like energy production, where you can use it as a tool to, monetize stranded energy or excess energy or things like that. But if you make it your main focus, it's just too competitive, too ever changing, and at scale, maybe even just inefficiencies of having a major company. Like perhaps it's just the bloat from HR and admin and all these other things that come into play when you scale up too big that it's not competitive for mining. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I think I think it will be competitive for miners at scale, but it'll be because their cost is zero. And by zero, I mean, look, I think 23% of the energy on this planet never gets to the consumer. 23%. Now, 3 years ago, I was talking about flare gas. Not that now everybody's talking about flare gas. I've never believed flare gas was going to be a big deal for Bitcoin mining, because one, where all the flare gas is the problem is it's not in one central location. That's a problem. So now you're going to just end up with small, but it is a really good painting, the picture of, oh, wow, flare gas. Never thought about that. Gosh, there's a lot of flare gas going up in there. Exactly. That is wasted energy that could be converted to something else. But let's think about more practical things. It costs $3 a year to store a unit of natural gas. The cost of natural gas in the United States is about $3. So if I'm Howard, is it Howard Ham, one of the biggest midstream guys, big oil producer, he probably every year buys rents storage, because in the off season, in the spring and the fall, the demand for natural gas goes down. He wants to sell 100 units every day. But the demand from the pipelines is 100 units in Christmas time, 100 units in the summer. But I only need 48 in the offspring, in spring and autumn. Well, he'll spend money with a third party, Columbia, to store the freaking gas, when if he had an electric generator or a generator sitting there at the platform, he could literally not buy storage at 50 cents, 30 cents a month, mine Bitcoin, have a capital expenditure that he can depreciate. By the way, he's already got all the land that he could possibly want. He gets to pick wherever he decides to go relative to his cost base, his tax base. I mean, there's so many things he could look at. And he's not spending $3 with a freaking Columbia. Now, they'll never spend $3. They'll spend 6 months of the year, 3 months of the year, but $1. Why are you spending $1 on a $3 product when you could convert it to Bitcoin, stick it on Howard's balance sheet? He's already got crude oil and nat gas on his balance sheet. You don't think he can take Bitcoin and stick it on his? He doesn't need FASB, dude. He's already got FASB. His shareholders understand commodity. This will make real estate look like a piece of shit when it comes together on Bitcoin.
I want to tease out that.
I mean, this is big, dude. Like, if you think my brother was like, hey, met with Howard, with Ham, and I'm like, bro, the energy complex for Bitcoin is so massive. It has been sold to that complex so poorly. And the energy that has been bought by miners from the energy complex, horrible deals.
Really?
Yes, because they've never sat down and thought, how does a guy that sells energy for an oil company make his bonus, man? What is his bonus tied to? And because they're not energy guys. And if they were thinking about this commercially, there's a way to commercially construct deals with energy players. But I think it's going to be too late for the U.S. miners. I think the U.S. energy complex will look at this and go, I don't really need you guys. Because what are they providing? Chicken coops that they call AI centers. Now, that will never go to an AI center, man. It's a chicken coop compared to a hospital. One's got like very high grade quality protection, sterilization. The other one's like, oh, wow, look, we found a volcano, man, build a miner. So these are really, really different. Like, the energy company's not even going to do that. They're going to be like, dude, I'm going to get sued. So they will all be state of the art. Carbon sequestration. Carbon sequestration is a ridiculous use of money. Okay? You're going to go buy land, drill a hole in it, stick a bunch of carbon back into the ground. You could just mine Bitcoin. I mean, these are $500 million projects, and they're subsidized by the government. It's outrageous what they're doing. And that's where we should be focused on. Hey, no subsidies for anything, dude. Fuck that. 0 subsidies. Why would you do a subsidy if you can use Bitcoin? It's not cool. Like, it's just inefficient. But the oil companies, if they're encouraged by the U.S. regs and by carbon bullshit and all this green stuff, if they're encouraged and the government's going to give them $500 million, you can't blame Oxy for building a freaking carbon sequestration facility.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to do that, let's go build desalination plants and get some clean water out of the ocean. It's no more expensive, man.
Okay, I want to jump in there because there's a few things, and I want to jump back to a little bit more in your history, and then I'll pull it forward. And there's a reason I'm doing it, because I'm curious what you think overall the hesitation or the blind spot, if it maybe is just the incentives of like subsidies and other things that are preventing or holding back the industry. But when I was looking into your past, I noticed that there was a couple of things there. And it stood out to me that like you were the prime candidate to get Bitcoin. We had the starting out in the energy industry. And if I understand correctly, you were involved in some standardizing of cross-border energy trading at some point as well, too. So you get energy, you get the importance of protocols and standardization. You've also got the real estate investment background. So sound money there as well, too. I believe you spent some time in finance as well. And then most currently, you're directly involved in tech. It was like all the major industries that could benefit from Bitcoin, which it made perfect sense to me why you would seemingly go at this so hard.
Right.
And so I'm curious then, between like the energy industry, the real estate investors, the tech companies, and like the finance as well too, which one do you think is primed to maybe be the next one to really jump into this? Is it energy? And is there something in their existing framework that's really holding them back?
I think all of these, one, your research was good and you picked it up very quickly. In fact, I would say that the last 12 years I spent building a business in fraud in the payments industry. I know these all sound really desperate and very different. They are. They are really different. And I think one of the messages is there, I think growing up and believing that you have to stay in one industry forever and ever is a complete myth. In fact, I would say it is an absolute trap. And here I am, C student, economics, marketing background, nothing special. I said yes to a lot of things and I said no to a lot of things. And that led me to 4 industries that I was able to really stick my beak into. I mean, really go down, understand it. The payments industry showed me, one, how fraudulent banking is.
Yep.
Anything you think about how fraudulent, I just say it because I'm too old. They can come fuck with me. They already are. But anything you think about the banking industry is far worse.
Let me break this down for my fellow Bitcoiners. In just 8 weeks, I've seen a serious shift. More strength, more energy, and fast muscle gains. The reason? FitScript. They ran 124 biomarkers, blood, hormones, inflammation, and built a fully custom plan, nutrition, training, supplements. No guesswork, no templates. This is functional medicine meets precision fitness for high-performing men who want sovereignty over their health. If you care about optimization the way you care about your money, test, don't guess. Don't trust, verify. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to check out FitScript and see what's possible.
Are you still delaying taking self-custody of your Bitcoin? Do you feel secure in your current Bitcoin setup? If something were to happen to you, would your stack make it to your loved ones? At Bitcoin Mentor, we've helped thousands of people level up their Bitcoin security and fast-track their understanding. If you find that you simply don't have the time to go through all the books, the tutorials, the guides, you can book a free one-on-one strategy session with myself, Gary, or any of the other great mentors by visiting bitcoinmentor.io. Scan the QR code or simply click the link in the description down below to find out how Ben and the entire expert team at Bitcoin Mentor can help you accelerate your Bitcoin journey. Use promo code BTC Sessions for 10% off.
Anything you think about the banking industry is far worse.
Really?
It is horrific. It is horrifically inefficient. And since all these people are so smart and they've got so many MBAs, and you know who I'm talking about, you either are so incompetent, it's ridiculous, or you're grossly mischievous and you're abusing your clients.
Wow.
Because it's horrendous, dude. There's trillions of dollars of fees that you and other consumers are paying. They're just complete crimes.
Talking about banking fraud in particular, one other thing that stood out to me, maybe this is what you're referring to, maybe this is related, but your company Chargeback 911, that also seemed like the perfect, what would you call, probably example of why we need final settlement and digital payments. And I'm wondering if that's kind of tied into what you're talking about, what you saw in the banking system and financial system beforehand.
Yeah. I mean, look, that particular fraud, half of that fraud is not even real.
Really?
It's literally plumbing problems.
Really?
And by plumbing problems, I mean a consumer receipt. I have something at my front door, dude. It's something, some wine glasses. I didn't order any wine glasses. It's got my name on it. It may have been maybe my credit card. I'm not going to go and call American Express and go file a chargeback. I'm going to do some investigation. Most people just go straight to their bank, Citibank, dispute. So there's 600 million of these events a year, dude. Billions of dollars. And then you start looking in Visa, MasterCard's books and you're like, oh, wow. Now let's see. Visa makes a 51% operating margin and $8 billion.
51%?
They're a 50-year-old company, bro.
Yeah.
They're not a tech company. Okay. They're not NVIDIA.
Yeah.
51% gross operating margin. $8 $8 billion or so of their $22 billion is from value-added services, man. And value-added services inside of that is fraud protection. Visa was allowed to buy a company called Verify, and then MasterCard was allowed to buy a company called Ethica. Both of them sell this fraud tool. MasterCard makes 40% of their 18 billion or so, 12, whatever their number is. It's a huge number of margin. A good 40% of that, I think 8 billion of the 22 or something, is from 12 of the 22 is from value-added services. And so this is like, okay, I didn't really invest in the highway, but I own the rights to the highway. If you get on the highway, I get a fee for the transaction. If you get off the highway and you do a refund or a chargeback, I make a fee. Oh, by the way, if anyone steals, I have no exposure whatsoever. Visa and MasterCard have never lost a penny in 50 years. There's zero risk, okay? And they're adding 300 basis points, 3% at least, to the whole. And why I say plumbing, because the payment rails were set up for you and I not to do this, but you and I me to walk into your store, give you my credit card, give you my signature, and maybe a license if the transaction was high. And it was to avoid all the problems from cash and checks. But now we're right back to 8 plus 10% of friction associated with trillions of transactions across MasterCard and Visa, because they did not build a system for anonymous transactions, microtransactions, trillions of not card present, non-present card transactions. It was not built for this. This is literally, they're pretending like the payment rails were built for high speed. They're not, okay? And they're literally, this is friction. It is noise. It is inconsistency. It is no standards. I have spent hours with both Visa and MasterCard telling them how to fix this problem I could erase disputes 50% tomorrow morning.
How?
You centralize the activity and you remove the decentralized capability of a duopoly, MasterCard and Visa, to sell products that obfuscate what's actually going on. And it's not fraud, okay? It is not. Starbucks gets 50,000 chargebacks a month.
Whoa.
Why? Because they're $8 transactions, and Starbucks will continue to get these because they never argue over them. Because the margin for them to fight that $8 chargeback, one, they're going to lose a lifetime customer. So they just look at it and go, fuck it, man. I don't want to piss Gary off. My coffee's already bad. It's overpriced. The service shit, okay? Yeah. And I've got some ginky white, looks like a dead human being with ear piercings coming out of their brains that won't even look me in the face. Yeah, I'll file a chargeback and they're not going to say shit, okay? Mm-hmm. The problem is when I get on that Southwest Airlines flight and their coffee is shit, I got a refund on Starbucks. I'm going to file a refund too on Southwest Airlines. See, the pretend thing is these rules are so complicated and people expect that a consumer thinks a transaction on an airline and a transaction in Starbucks is different. It's a freaking transaction, man. And Visa and MasterCard love making these transactions appear to be different, like adult. They get 400% more on an adult transaction than they do some groceries. Why? If it's a legal transaction, okay, if porn's either legal or not. Okay, so like if it's legal, why are you having to pay more? Gaming, gambling, all this moves to crypto, bro. And it moves to crypto because the fees that a guy like anyone, OnlyFans, all of this, and you can say you don't like it. People are buying this stuff. There's 82 million men on OnlyFans.
Whoa.
Okay. 1 million women, 82 million men. There's only 170 million men in the United States.
That's
And
unbelievable.
by the way, I'm not on OnlyFans. Not
As a
knowingly.
performer or as a client, which one were you denying
Either.
there? Okay. No, it's funny because I'm immediately reminded of like new technologies being adopted by kind of the fringes that could use it the most that are currently outside of the existing system. Pagers being used by drug dealers and doctors and start as well too.
Yep.
And even with Bitcoin too, we had the Silk Road, right? So regardless of how you might feel about these illicit activities, it's usually those that are forced to the periphery that have the most to gain from for starting to experiment and starting to use them. So that makes perfect sense to me why those industries would eye Bitcoin and go, this is better. This is way better. Why don't I just use this? It offers, especially if you're using Lightning or something, it's going to offer some anonymity, file settlement, and I'm not going to pay an arm and a leg necessarily in fees.
Now, the anonymity, I just need to interrupt you there, okay? It's not going to give you any anonymity. There's no anonymity in crypto. That was a great myth, man. I don't even know where that came from. But if you want to do something illegal, do it in dollars.
Yeah.
If you want to do something that your wife doesn't find out about, or your boyfriend or your mom, do it in dollars, man. And I don't care how many Moneros you have. Okay. Like I own another company I bought a company called Node 40 that tracks audits, and it does deep audits on really large players. And we can settle now 1 billion transactions down to 98 cents. That means I can take a portfolio of someone that traded for a year, 1 billion transactions, $589 million, and settle across every jurisdiction, every transaction, every token down to 98 cents. That is extreme clarity, man.
Agreed. And if I can just clarify, because you're right, in particular with Bitcoin, it's pseudonymous, not anonymous, and everything's on chain. If you really want to do something legal, you're absolutely right. The US dollar cash is the best way to go. More or less just comparing, like if we're using things like CoinJoin or we're using things like Lightning and Liquid for forward-facing privacy as compared to Visa, there's at least a little bit of an improvement there. But you're absolutely right. The worst stuff is always done in cash. I'm pretty sure that's what the CIA likes to drop off from time to time. If I can, I did want to actually reference something. Actually, I'll jump back on a different point. Earlier, you were talking about getting into different industries. This idea that you could go to different industries, don't have this myth that you're stuck in one spot. And I want to tease that out a little bit because you've been unbelievably successful in multiple industries, in different entrepreneurial ventures, and investing as well too. And I know that at least from I hear you in spaces and stuff all the time as well. Definitely big push for Bitcoin as an investment. But I'm curious for people that are maybe their peak kind of career years or earlier in their journey that aren't at the point of having large sums of capital that they can invest. What would you recommend to somebody who's getting out there, maybe looking to start a business or go down a career path? Where are you seeing the opportunities for people who haven't made their wealth yet?
Well, I think it really depends on where you're at and your demeanor. First off, I mean, people are going to immediately think, oh, wow, Gary just, had a lot of money and he went and did all this stuff. Well, that's just not true. Okay. I didn't have any money and I worked for $27,000 a year and was probably overpaid. I didn't know shit, man. Okay. I didn't know skadoodly. Why would anyone pay me more than 27 grand? When I was making $70,000, I was 26 in Houston. I was like, fuck, dude, like I can't even believe this, right? Look, I think that first off, whatever company or business you're running or who you're working for today, or if you're not working, I don't think anyone's at a disadvantage here. In fact, if you're not working, you may be at a greater advantage than others because the rug's already been pulled out from under you. So you got to make some decisions. I think if you're working at any company, I have to look at myself and go, hey, what does this company actually do? If it cannot answer it in one sentence, man, what value do they bring to humanity? I need to start maybe looking for a different platform. I then need to also ask myself, what value am I bringing to the table? And if I can't answer that in one or two sentences, I need to get my shit together fast because I did a painting last night and I went on Grok and I said, hey, Grok, here's the painting. You give it a name. And pretend like you're a highbrow art dealer, and I want you to give me the promotion for it. Bro, I would have bought this fucking thing out. I was like, my God, dude, I will never need an art. This thing, so you see my point? Like, I am now, one, I've never done art. I'm trying to learn how to do art. I actually believe we have been lied to. We can learn anything. And to sit here and see the most disruptive change on the planet, the first thing I would do is I would look at my portfolio. Okay. And if I have debt, I get rid of it. If I have debt under 8%, I look at it and go, whoa, wait, not that debt. All the debt over 8%. Then I look, do I own a house? Do I need this house? Is this house actually a problem? What am I making on this house? What's my 401k in? What is my cash in? Like, look at my current position and change it immediately. Move everything I possibly can to Bitcoin. And when I say everything, I mean everything.
You famously sold your house, didn't you, about a year ago?
Well, I own this house that I'm in. I charged 85% of this home against the operating expense of my life because I am whatever I do. That was never available to me before, bro. Not before COVID. Okay. And I will go to court and argue that 85% of the entire value of this house, which I will still lose against Bitcoin, but 85% of what it cost me to live in this home, I am going to net out of my expenses. It's expense, right? Now that's very different. And my excuse is, you guys forced me out of my office. You forced my children out of the schools. You basically have convinced me that you're not really reliable, that you can make me stay off the roads. Well, I have a life to live and I have a family to protect and people to protect. So I'm going to I went and came and bought this compound. This compound cost me, by the way, 1,000 Bitcoin.
Whoa.
Okay. So this house is not worth $120 million, dude. See, it was worth $8 million when I bought it. But had I invested that $8 million or $8.6 million, it's probably worth 14 or 15, $16 million today, 4 years later. But it's a loser, man. It's a loser. The only reason I'm holding on to it is because of this new tax thing. I'm like, well, y'all forced me out of here. So but now that's a trap, because I'm like, wow, if you saw the house, you'd be like, bro, you live here for 15 grand a month. I mean, stupid. That's stupid. That's $1,000, what is that? $500 a night in a hotel. Like, this is a hotel. But it's still a trap. It's cost me $100 million, man. Right? And it's not going to go down. That is only going to get worse. And by the way, the expenses of this home, add hurricanes twice in a year and insurance and, oh shit, I lost that oak tree. I got to replace that, 30 grand. The expenses continue to go up. The taxes will continue to go up. So most people that find themselves in this position, they have a wife and the wife's like, no, we're not selling the house. Well, I thought it was a good investment, baby. Well, it is a good investment. Well, you know what? Sometimes you have to sell the investment. You can't sit there and go, this is a great investment. Yeah, but we'll never sell it. Are you fucking crazy? So I would look at everything, dude. If it's not generating revenue, I ain't doing it. Okay. I've got 4 invites to go to New York and Chicago in the next month. And they're like, most people would be like, wow, I get to hang around those guys. I'm like, I'm not really going to get a lot out of going to that meeting, dude, other than shaking some people's hand and having a drink with people I already know. If I do less and make more, is that a good thing? If I do less and am able to do more and read more and learn more and create more, now that's the kind of life I want to live. And that's what they don't teach you in school. And that's that's the lie, right? Hey, let's go. It doesn't matter if you do Bitcoin or not. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter. What matters is do you know your own value and what the hell are you doing with your life? And if it's all about money, the safest play on the planet is even if you're a business builder, like I've got a friend right now, he just came into Bitcoin. He is a private equity. He loves building his own businesses, and he will not invest in like criminal organizations, no matter how much money they make. Like we were talking about United Healthcare. Buy United Healthcare for $300 billion, $250 million less than you could 2 weeks ago. And I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, man. I think they're a bad company, right? I'm not going to buy Raytheon or General Dynamics because they're a war company. This guy just stuck his beak into Bitcoin. In 1 year, he will stop doing private equity. In 1 year, he will stop building businesses, because when you realize that the human error element of building a business, dude, it's all I've ever done since I was 22. It's exhausting. You get sued. You get blamed for doing shit by people that are creatures, mediocre. The mediocre, it's the ants. And you know, once the company gets to 300 people, it's no fun anymore. Once HR walks through the front door, I'm out. I'm immediately like, okay, let's just get out. It's going to go to shit. I think the reason is human beings have a problem managing more than 100 to 150 people.
Agreed. It's Dunbar's number, right? It's like 127 or something.
Yeah, I just don't like after. It's odd, right? The least important meetings, the least important topics include the most number of people, and the most important decisions in a company comes down to 1 or 2 people. So why do you have all these group meetings? I hate the group meetings. So look, if you're down and out right now and you don't know what to do, I would be very excited, because like this is the best time to be lost, because everyone's lost. But you have to now do some real research. I would look at the white paper. I would watch the white paper on YouTube. I would read The Cost of Tomorrow and 2 other books. And you spend 25 hours on this. I will give anyone a Bitcoin. If you spend 25 hours on reading the material I give to you, and you decide not to invest in Bitcoin with your own money, I've never seen anybody do it. And all the naysayers, if you just interview them, including Peter the Dick Schiff, you have not spent 25 hours. You might have listened on Spaces, but that ain't 25 hours. And there are an amazing amount of people that are invested in Bitcoin that have not even done the 25.
Completely agree with that. I think that's one of the reasons that we see a lot of volatility at times, is because you have more people that have Bitcoin than understand Bitcoin, and that information asymmetry is massive. One, I think Peter Schiff is playing the heel. I will stand by that theory. I think he's full of shit and he's got Bitcoin. But two, you're right. Because I mean, like if I walk into a room of 1,000 people and I ask them, has anybody heard of Bitcoin? Everybody puts their hand up. If I ask them, has anybody bought Bitcoin? I might even get like 10% of the room. But if I ask them to explain the difficulty adjustment or how the 21 million supply cap is actually enforced, not a clue. I would be shocked if it wasn't like a Bitcoin event that somebody could actually explain that to me. So it seems to me like your biggest message there is kind of like realize the opportunity cost that Bitcoin presents, that anything else that you're doing, you got to compare it to that kind of standard, because that's kind of the measuring stick for real estate and projects. And then also being really aligned with how the organizations you're a part of are adding value, and then how you're adding value to those organizations. It's got to be linked up, or you're just not going to be able to get momentum.
Yeah, well, the first question is what's your industry doing, or what you're doing are really key, because it should show you how at risk you are. And that's really why, like, this is the most interesting project I've ever been involved in, because I'm actually adding real value for the first time in my life. Me trading billions of dollars in power and natural gas and slashing Goldman Sachs 1 week and them slashing me 1 week. I mean, it was fun, but you look back and you go, wow, what did I do? Did I add any value? And I mean, I can see where there's real value being created here. This is a real life, a life raft, right? I mean, it's provided tremendous security to me that would take another hour or two to talk about. But I find this to be an extremely stabilizing. There's something very unique about Bitcoin, especially when I think if you get to a certain volume, and this is what I would implore everyone to do is, every goal I've ever made, like I want to own 1,000 Bitcoin. I want to buy and own and control 1,000 Bitcoin. That is my goal. Am I there yet? No. I'm not going to tell you how close I am there, but
don't tell us.
But let's say that your goal is to have 5 Bitcoin. Well, get going, man. Okay. That means, I have 1.1 today. Then one day I'm going to have 1. But in order to get to 5, I got to get through 1 first. So there's just too many people, Nathan, that are smart people who seem to have a unique life and they're moving into Bitcoin. If you actually examine the personalities, they are all very similar personalities. Now it's getting ready to change. You're getting ready to have a new wave of players like my brother who are ultra conservative.
Yep.
See, I'm not an ultra conservative guy. I've lost like stupid amounts of money. This is just what I do though, right? I mean, it's just in my nature to be all in. Because the truth is, that is all there is. Really. 2, it is where all the great wealth is made. People don't make money being diversified.
Yeah.
They don't. And this is what the comment I was making about my friend in a year. He just has this thing from his parents that says, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Really? Well, you just go ask your wife how that's going to work. You do not treat your wife and your family like, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. It's like, I'm going to have a redhead and a blonde in Vegas. I don't fucking think you are, bro. Not for long. I don't think
that's going to go over well.
Exactly right. So that's diversified, though. It's clearly a diversified strategy.
I got to jump in on that because that was the thing that was burning a hole in the back of my mind as you were going there, was that you also talked about stability of Bitcoin. And the immediate parallel that I drew is that, for one, I agree, Bitcoin has been very stabilizing for me in my life and has improved the trajectory. And I actually relate it back to my wife in the sense that getting married was very stabilizing for my career and my trajectory and everything as well, too. When I had my relationship and my family sorted out, when I found a good woman and locked it down, I didn't have to worry about that anymore. Right. And when I found Bitcoin, I was like, okay, all I need to do is add value and save in Bitcoin. And I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to try and become a day trader or investor or focus on anything else just to retain the energy and time that I've already stored away. I can simplify everything to like family relationship, check, done, good. Savings, done, check, good. I could just focus on career, self-improvement, hobbies. It allows me to have a stable foundation that I can build better things on than I ever would have thought possible years ago.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is why I'm excited about AI.
Yeah.
Because it's funny. It's funny how the people that get all excited and scared and then compare them to the people that don't. And there's very few people that are like, I think AI is going to be awesome.
I'm with you.
Look, and maybe it's because I'm getting older and I actually don't want to do everything. Like, dude, I don't want to do it. I've never wanted to do everything. Quite frankly, I've always had this part right. Maybe I'm just lazy, but I think I have a better chance of being really great at one thing. And over 40 or 50 years, wake up and go, shit, I'm actually good at 4 or 5 or 6 different things, but I just want to be fucking great at one thing. Like really great at one thing. And I've been able to, I think it's worked because I've just the little time I've been in this space. I mean, navigating the Bitcoin community is not the easiest thing on the planet.
No.
And then trying to navigate TradFi and Bitcoin. Dude, two freaking, psychotic groups of people with their own misunderstandings and understandings and hate of each other. Mm-hmm. When in reality, hey, look, it's actually, anyway, it's the compliment I've been given the most often. It's like, bro, you have navigated that community really well between the alt guys and the Bitcoiners. And I'm actually really proud because I think I'm starting to get to the alt guys. and they're starting to go, hey, man, wait, this guy's just too sensible. I'm taking too much risk. And this is what, it's the risk adjusted piece. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin for me. It's this anchor, but it's an anchor that doesn't tie you to a fixed position. And it's a buoy. It's an anchor, but it also does this. If I get a bunch of high water, dude, I'm not held down, but I'm not being thrown about all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And that is fascinating. That is really fascinating. So like I'm, if you're, I know this is going on for this question, but like, look at you, dude. You're making a living doing what you love to do. Okay.
Yeah, I'll even just throw in when you're talking about one, I didn't give a shit in university because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it's like, okay, I'll just become a doctor, I guess. But I had no passion for it. So I thought I didn't care about learning. Turns out I was fascinated by like Austrian economics, but discovered that later. And I actually pivoted from immunology research to Bitcoin. So currently I've only done one kind of industry hop, but I could not be happier for it.
Yeah. Yeah. But look, I mean, I think that if you can learn how to study, you can learn anything. And it's highly likely that most people that went to school are not going to make the money in the schooling they went to. But the opportunity, like, look at what you're doing. You've created a career for yourself where you can be with your family. I mean, I could most certainly turn this into a money thing if I wanted to. Oh, by the way, I could hire 2 or 3 people if they're sensible enough and know how to communicate in one email instead of 37 and 14 texts, and be consistent. Like, I could hire people. Okay. Like, all people are going to do, like, literally people should be ringing my door off to be my apprentice, man. That's what I would do. See, if I was 55 or 25, I would literally pay someone to mentor me. I would pay a guy. A guy called me up from Saudi Arabia the other day. He said, hey man, I want to hire you as a mentor. I said, go read Think and Grow Rich and call me back. And that's like, I'm going to just tell you what to go read. And we'll see if he reads it, he'll call me back and go, okay, I read it. What's next, sir? Dude, those people I worked for in the early days at 70 grand, they could have literally not paid me anything. I would have kept my job, dude. There was no firing my ass. I was going to stay no matter what. And to me, that's the mistake people make, is like, go find a platform. What is a platform? Smart people, dude, that allow you to be yourself, and that you're able to bring value to those smart people. Just to be around a smart cat is worth it, okay? And most people around, you're walking around your company and ask yourself who you have access to at the company that's fucking wicked smart. That's who you want to get around, man. So, wicked smart, like, because this thing is changing, okay? It's changing so fast. People go, hey, Gary, why aren't you building another company? Well, dude, I can actually, why do I want to deal with all you people? Like, I can make all my own decisions. I can stick my nose in the X or social media today and meet almost anybody I want to meet. And I'm not a famous guy. In crypto, there are no closed doors. There may be some people that don't like me, that just don't want to meet with me. Speaking of that, that's my brother. Or whether we have political differences, but there has not been one person in 3 years. I called the CEO of NIDIG up. Hey, Gary Cardone here. Could I meet with you next week? Come on in. Come on in, man. What do you want to talk about? That is very, very unusual. Okay. This does not happen in the payments industry or ExxonMobil. That does not happen. So if you're missing this space, you shouldn't. And if you are seeing this space and you're getting like lost in the glittery objects of altcoins and Misty and MicroStrategy and this trade and that trade, dude, stay focused on Bitcoin. And when you hear, guys like me buying some other things, it's because, I am extremely already allocated to Bitcoin. My life, this has been like, in 4 years, I've accomplished more in 4 years than I have in the prior 16.
Wow.
Okay. With 1,000 less headaches.
Yep.
1,000, dude. And I don't know if you know what 1,000, but when you get older, you start going, hey, why? I don't want this headache over this shit, dude. Why is someone calling me about and giving me a URL and there's misspelled words in it? I don't want to do this. This is minimal work, right? I don't want to do, I want my value to be going to the highest value. This, people are going to get lost in this cycle right here. One, I believe that you and I will make and retain the most amount of money ever made in Bitcoin is getting ready to happen in the next 4 to 8 years. Oh, bro, I've already made more money than most of the whales that have come and gone that you don't even hear about. The trillions of dollars that have been lost in this industry from short-term thinking is frightening. And the hubris, like when you win a lottery ticket, don't start thinking you were smart. Just accept you won a lottery ticket. Because what happens to the lottery ticket winner is he begins to think he's smart. He then takes that money and invests it in operating companies, and every whale that's done that's lost money.
Yep. I'm pretty sure Brian Armstrong at Coinbase would have been better off just buying Bitcoin and sitting on it.
Oh, bro. I mean, like Coinbase, quite frankly. Well, and look, those are different issues, right? I mean, Coinbase probably is going to decide, oh, wow, I should have done the reserve too. But it was too risky back then. Chamath, every smart guy is underestimating this play, okay? Chamath owned 5% of the entire supply of Bitcoin at $300 and he sold it. Yeah. Now, you want me to, I'm going to get under Chamath's nose real quick. Chamath would be hanging out with Donald Trump right now, bro.
Yep.
Instead, it's David Sachs. David Sachs, right? I mean, think about that, bro. Chamath, an Indian, would be sitting with Donald Trump right now, and he knows it. Now, he doesn't talk about it, but he knows it. This is this is not like Standard Oil or an oil play, dude. We're talking about David Sachs. No one heard of this cat before. Okay, now he's in the space, all over the space. These people, by the way, have surrendered all their crypto holdings. Okay, it's the most positive crypto audience, 37-year-old guys. Like, this is going one way, man. Like, there isn't not one negative person sitting on Trump's executive team about Bitcoin. They're actually beginning to think, hey, this could be a solution for us in a pile of no solutions.
So, in terms of currently we're sitting at like 110 last I looked on in terms of Bitcoin price. We've got the other major companies kind of in our crosshairs here. I'm kind of curious how you see this cycle with the current support from the administration playing out. I know you talked about this being like the big win in 4 to 8 years. Do we still have the cycles? Where do you see things going in the short and medium term?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think to say that Bitcoin's going to take out gold, I don't think it works that way. I think you're just going to look, this is a market cap play now. For the audience, in the history of mankind, there's never been a $2 trillion industry that failed, ever. Once you get critical mass, dude, we're done now. This is why I continue to say, oh, 100 grand, this is risk adjusted. This is the cheapest entry point in history. Based on what we know today, we know so much more than we knew 7 months ago. If I would have been talking about an SBR, which is now like in our acronymic mindset, the term wasn't even discussed a year ago. A year ago, you and I would have argued over the impact of the next ETF.
Yep.
And the flows. We don't even care about it, dude. 4,000 Bitcoin a week's being purchase. One guy buys all the mining output. So look, they're just going to keep eating through. It'll eat through Apple. Apple's probably going to come down in valuation. And this is what I was talking about, the glittery object. United Healthcare, if you have a chart, United Healthcare just lost $300 billion worth of value in a week and a half.
Wow.
Tomorrow morning, we know that there's fraud charges coming from the DOJ. I mean, serious fraud charges. Friends of mine bought United Health on a 50% downturn at 250. I think it opens tomorrow at 250.
Oof.
Now, that will never happen with Bitcoin. So all these companies, people are going to start looking at the risk associated. They've had 3 CEOs, dude, in a year and a half. Okay, they had a guy shot in front of a hotel. You stack all this data together and you're like, there's a little bit too much smoke here. I don't want to buy United Healthcare. I don't want all that risk. Maybe they've been ripping people off every day. Maybe this is $300 billion, dude, and people yawn. Okay, 300. So if United Healthcare can go down 300 billion, 6 months ago we figured out for the first time in the history of Wall Street that Nvidia, a stock, could move 300 billion in one day. Now, what's weird about that? Where were all the genius analysts who were looking at Nvidia and not one of them saw that coming? So I thought these guys were so bright and that Wall Street and the price is always efficient. Yet in one day, Nvidia changed by $300 billion. You guys are out of your mind if you don't think Bitcoin can move $100,000 in an extremely short period of time. Out of your freaking minds. Because you're literally seeing it with legacy. Violence, okay? Violent. Palantir was trading at $69 fucking dollars the other day. I literally considered selling Bitcoin to buy it.
Wow.
It's at 130 right now, dude.
Yeah. Geez.
Okay. In a week. Okay. Bitcoin, like it's outperforming the shit out of Bitcoin. For me, that's saying something because I can't own Palantir. For me, ethically, I don't want to be a war. I got better things to do with my karma in the next 37,000 lifetimes, dude. I do not want to make money selling weapons. But I think other people won't have that. And so you're going to see Bitcoin, where I'm trying to get to. The volatility you've been sold, not you, but the world has been sold. This is a lie, dude. They're trying to scare you. The volatility of Bitcoin, 1, is not that bad. 2, unless you're a guy sitting on $1 trillion in cash in your house, most people need to earn money. So having the ability to earn when Bitcoin's going up, earn, save, watch it go through this cycle that y'all like to talk about, the 4-year cycle, and then you deploy all those nuts. Okay, doing that down frame. I mean, you can kind of see it. It's not impossible to see this. And then you go in and go out, go in and go out. My average cost base is $45,000 going up. Okay, and I bought all this shit in the last 3 years. All of it. I dumped it. I bought it. I dumped it because of a problem, and then I've acquired it all. This is not a bad. Like, I'm a late entry to this. Sailor just paid $103,000 for 4,000, and his average cost is 62. So average cost, unit bias, the price of Bitcoin is wrong. You don't look at it. Look at the freaking market cap. I am buying a $2 trillion market cap. Apple's at $3 trillion. Nvidia's at $3 trillion. Saudi Aramco's at $3+ trillion. Guess what, dude? There's $3 trillion, and then there's gold. There's $3 trillion, and then there's the mag stack of 13 trillion. The whole mag 7 stack is 13 to 18 trillion. Guess what? Size of gold. Okay? I think gold gets hurt here. I'm not, I know there's some really famous people out there that call them gold. I owned a lot of gold. I don't see gold exploding from here.
Unless, I think it already has.
Well,
I think it already has. Yeah.
People call them for $4,000 gold, though, man. Be great for Bitcoin. I actually think you could see gold start to I think you're going to have gold sellers. Gold players are going to move into Bitcoin. I've got a bunch of friends that it's obvious how hard that shit is to move.
Yeah. I think real estate players too. I think both of those are primed to move into Bitcoin.
Yeah, most certainly, man. Well, everybody's going to look for yield. See, I call Bitcoin the great magnet. People talk about going down the rabbit hole. I think that's really narcissistic. Almost like you have the forethought to go down this bizarre. If you're lucky, you're pulled into this thing. I have been pulled into it. And it was my interest. I do have curiosity. But I was also had a problem. I was starting to feel gravity, a lot of gravity. I'm like, fuck, man. And Bitcoin really has acted as an anti-gravity, anti-time machine for me. That puts me above. I mean, it's a weird way to look at it, but it actually elevates me above so I can look down and go, oh, I don't think I need to really overreact here. Which is really, really pretty amazing. And I think it's only something you can experience until you've experienced it. And it requires you to have volume. And the example I use, El Salvador, they had 6,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet and they had to do the deal with the IMF. They had to bend over. My first question was, how much should they have had to be able to tell the IMF to fuck off?
Yeah.
And I think it was 5 times more than they had, 30,000 instead of 6. That began giving me a thought, hey, there must be a ratio that Gary Cardone, just take Gary Cardone family unit. This is how much I spend. This is my debt. This is how heavy Gary is. Okay. How much Bitcoin relative to my debt, my weight, my costs, my living expenses, how much Bitcoin do I need to always keep me in a position to go, I don't need you. Right? And I think there's a mathematical ratio there. Okay. I think there is, but more importantly, if you get laden with enough Bitcoin, it will give you this anchoring without anchoring, if you know what I mean, without sticking you into a hole and you can't move. And to me, that's really powerful for someone that's, back to your original question. Hey, where's the opportunity, the career? This would be the kind of asset you would want to invest in, especially in a really consolidated way, in particular, if you're building companies or you're building yourself, right? With the caveat, you have to think about this in a 4 to 6 year cycle. Okay, which I think these cycles are broken now, but you have to let Bitcoin do its thing. And you need, I think, unless you're super, super lucky, you need, I think, 3 to 4 years. That's been my experience. Once I move through that, keeping in mind, there isn't a person on the planet that's held Bitcoin for 4 years that's ever lost money.
Yep. And
you can't say that about anything else, my friend. Not any other product in the world.
Completely agree.
And why would that change? See, that fundamental, for that to change now would be really weird.
I agree. Beautiful. Gary, with that, I feel like it's the perfect place to wrap it up. For anybody who wants to follow you, check out more of your stuff. I know you're in Twitter Spaces all the time, or x.com. Where can they go and check you out?
It's at Gary Cardone, YouTube, X, and LinkedIn. They'll find me. If you want to find me, you'll find me.
If you enjoyed this episode with Gary, please do like, share, and subscribe. And check out the previous episode with Katie from Citizen X on finding your backup escape country.